The mind commands the brain, and the brain gives orders to the body. And when we understand that hierarchy and when we operate it, then we are in charge of our lives. Then we are really in control in a good way. And then we can master all the challenges.
Welcome, everybody, to the Chris Harder Show, where we are making you unapologetic about your pursuit of success, knowing that when good people like you make good money, they can then do great things. My name is Chris Harder, and several times per week, I will bring you epic guests, solo episodes, and every single tool, trick, and skill set you need to grow your business, grow your money mindset, and to grow your wealth to levels that you have never reached before. I've ended up in a unique place in life where I've got the experience, the connections, and all of the secrets that it takes to be successful. And I'm lifting the curtain to reveal it all to you in an effort to help put you in a position of abundance so great that you can then be as generous as possible. So let's lock arms and let's get started. Petra, welcome to the show.
We're so excited to have you on both of our shows right now. And you're somebody who Chris and I literally could not wait to chat with. You have so many topics that we're interested in, and we'll dive in because you are such a unique blend of different talents. So we can't wait to share you with our audiences.
Well, you're such a unique blend of science and also the woo, if you will. And you make those two worlds work together. And you're one of the only people we've ever met that makes those two worlds work together. We can't wait to talk about that.
But
Thank
not
you
just
for having me.
that, can we also just say mixed with being a firefighter? Like you've lived multiple lives and you've kind of mashed all that wisdom together. So Chris, go ahead, get started.
All right. So for those of you that don't know you yet, how would you describe what you do?
I do the woo stuff, science-based.
I love it. And how do you do it? Through coaching, through programs?
Mainly for coaching one-on-one. I also offer some programs, but my heart beats for the one-on-one stuff because I really want to see the miracles happen.
I love this. And the reason that we wanted to start, these conversations with you and people from our different programs is this series that we're doing, Petra, is called Just Like You. And it kind of gives people reference points for where they are at on their journey. So we're really hoping that the listeners right now resonate with the people that we're highlighting, and you're someone that we wanted to highlight because you're closer to their journey, right? You're doing a big transition, you're taking the leap, you're really putting yourself out there. So we're highlighting you because you are somebody who is from our dinner series. And we've gotten to spend a lot of time with you. You're not just in the program. You've sat at the VIP tables. We've had incredible conversations with you. We've gotten to really dive into your past. We've gotten to meet your husband.
He's the best, by the way. Love him.
I feel like I've gotten to spend more time with you than my family recently. So this is so much fun.
All right. So here's the first question I want, because I love this. And because, like Lori said, we've gotten to know you. We knew where we wanted to start this. We wanted to start it by asking you about the very special reason why you do what you do. And it's a great story that has to do with your daughter. Would you mind sharing that story?
Thank you for asking the question, and best regards from my husband to all of you, to all of our listeners. And it's the family story that started everything. Our daughter at age 10 got severely sick, and the medical world gave up on her. And they literally, quote, said to us, say goodbye to her. She will not survive the night.
Mm.
And we both are scientists, and I had 3 near-death experiences prior to that event, but I didn't really realize what that was and what it meant. I couldn't handle it, so to say, with my scientific mind. And our daughter is healthy now. She's a great young woman to fast forward to that. But this was what got me started on that journey. We took her home against the medical advice, and it was a tough journey, and people called me names, and you can't imagine what they said, what I am. But long story short, I wanted to understand what had saved her life. So my scientific approach kicked in, and with hindsight, I wanted to know what that was that made her survive. And I started studying. This is what I know, right? How to study. And it made me feel somewhat safe. And I figured out it was hypnosis. And from that point on, hypnosis, I studied the process and how it works and why it works and if it's repeatable. And then I learned from different mentors and teachers, and I developed my own way of approaching it. It's the same process, right? It's working with the mind. It's a transcendent state. But what do you do in that transcended state of mind? I think this makes all the difference. And that's what I love so much, to understand, to a certain extent at least, how the mind works and the hierarchy, right? The mind, we talk a lot about mindset, but how do you do that to get into the right mindset sustainably, consistently, not just a moment, right? And then you snap out of it. And the mind commands the brain, and the brain gives orders to the body. And when we understand that hierarchy and when we operate it, then we are in charge of our lives. Then we are really in control in a good way. And then we can master all the challenges.
Just to totally clarify, what did that look like? So the doctor said she's not going to survive the night. You said, I'm going to take her home. I want to try some different methods
Not
on
really.
her, or okay.
No, not really. So of course we went through all the emotions, right?
Mhm.
Desperation, fear, anger, you name it. Total love for her. And the next morning she was still alive. And this is when I said, I want to take her home. I didn't want her to pass in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband, supportive as he is, he didn't agree with me. And his father was a medical doctor, so he came even more from the other side. And he said, okay, if this is what you want, we do it. And we took her home. And my instinct, I didn't know better. My instinct led me to talk to her kind of 24/7. And sometimes my husband pulled me out of her room and said, she probably has a headache already. You need to stop talking. And I needed some sleep also. So fast forward, I think I really believe that talking to her, she was unconscious most of the time. I didn't even know if she would hear me or something or feel the love or whatever it was. But it was the talking that kept me going, right? And then with hindsight, to learn what's the right thing to say. That makes all the difference.
So what were you saying looking back that you're like, wow, I can't believe that I got that intuitive hit to be saying these things to her?
Yeah. What were you saying to her specifically? What worked?
I think it's two different parts. The one part is that I completely surrendered. And this is when I learned that surrendering is not giving up. It's two very different things, right? To hand it over to a higher power. I didn't even know how to call that higher power. Now I found my own language. But my love was so clear and so unconditionally that I said, if she needs to leave this earth, take her. I don't want her to suffer any longer. And and this is what I told her, if you need to leave, we are going to be okay, even though I didn't believe myself, but I gave her permission. And on the other hand, I told her, if you can decide to stay, you can do this. You are strong enough. We love you. We are here for you. We support you. We are in this together. And it was an encouragement. It was both giving her permission to make her own decision without giving up. And I think this is very important, right? My love was bigger than my need to have her with me. So it was kind of ego-less that moment, right? My ego was out of the way, whatever was best for her, but still having that light for her. If you want to stay, we are here, and I give my all. And so did my husband.
Well, number one, it's remarkable that she's still with you guys today. What a happy ending to a story like that, and that she's thriving. This became the springboard then to your career, kind of. And I really want to highlight, this became the springboard where, you were a career scientist. Both you and your husband are scientists by trade, but then you really decided to study into the world of spirituality and woo, as we like to joke and call it. And you are one of the only people that can make those two worlds that are seemingly opposites make them make sense together. Can you shed some light on that a little bit?
Thank you. Yes, of course. I love to do that because I think the more people understand that, the more people can access it. And we don't have to have this question either or. We can combine it, right? And for me, it was a very conscious decision. Being the scientist, this is how I was trained. And one day I said to myself, I literally sat down with myself and said, okay, let's have a look at your brain. You have two hemispheres and you have this bridge in between called corpus callosum. And you voluntarily limit yourself to one half of your brains, the analytical one. And I decided I have both hemispheres for a reason, and I have a bridge in between. So let me use that. I wanted to have more, right? You can call it greedy or whatever. I wanted more. And with the permission to use that other half of the brain, things opened up for me. And as a little child, I vividly remember I was 4 years old. At that time, I talked to energies, spirits, angel, call it how you want it. And I thought everyone would do that. And at 4, my mom told me, you have to stop that. You can't continue doing this. Otherwise, I have to return you. And I had no idea where she wanted me to
Yeah,
return.
return you where?
Yeah, I had no idea. But what I knew, I didn't want to be returned, right?
Yeah.
So I stopped it for many years, but now I think this is what helps me to do the work I do at a level that I do it.
Okay, so when it stopped for a while,
Mhm.
the experience with your daughter is what kind of spurred that on. And then you really saw how everything was working. Did you immediately want to help other people with this? Or were you like, okay, I figured this out for us, but now I'm totally freaked out to share this with people? Why were you what and I know you're shaking your head like, yes, I didn't want to share it with people. So you didn't want to share, but why did you feel that way?
Why'd you start?
I felt that way because I didn't feel safe, right? I
Mhm.
didn't want to be returned. My mom told me
Yeah.
this is what happens.
And that
Then
stuck with you.
exactly, right? And the rejection, I feared the rejection, what people would think, that they would exclude me. We all feel this need of belonging. It's rather fitting in, but what we actually want is we want to belong. And after my first near-death experience, I didn't share, I didn't talk about it for 6 years, and I
Mm.
almost lost my marriage because I had changed so much. And then talking about this, and my husband had reacted completely differently than I had feared. So this was this two worlds, right? Again, both worlds. What do I do now? And I didn't want to share with people because I felt an imposter, right? Who am I to share this? And I started with family and friends, and the results were coming. And I could trust the results. It was not, it happened once, okay, this was luck. It happened a second time, okay, luck. But after multiple times, you can't blame it on luck anymore, right? There is a system, there's a process behind. And then I connected with my purpose. I had no idea about having a purpose before that. But now I know I'm living my purpose, and that's my obligation. And this is what I now help people with, to read their soul roadmap, their plan, and to help them to get on track. And it was scary. It was really scary. On the other hand, I also wanted to help people. And this is what led me to become a firefighter. I mean, firefighter, we risk our lives for others. And you don't do this if you're not really sure this is what you're supposed to do, right?
Mm. What gave that hit that you were like, I need to be a firefighter at this point?
It was our neighbor at the time, and I needed a new driver's license. Long story short, he connected me to the chief of the fire department. And again, I felt I'm not good enough. I can't drive the trucks. They need a driver, right?
Oh,
And I had a trucker's driver's license, and I said, I can't do this. And he said, let's have a test, right? And I could agree to that. And we lived in Switzerland at the time, right? It was early November. It's a funny story. And I thought, okay, let's have the test drive. And as I woke up that morning, it had snowed. And the weather forecast had not predicted any cold weather or snow. And I thought,
No.
you're telling me, right? Snow in Switzerland. And I was supposed to drive the truck. And we still did it. I wanted to bail out, but the chief didn't allow it and said, I'm with you. You're safe. We are going to do this. He trusted me. I drove the truck and everything else is history. I served for almost 10 years there.
This is what makes you so fascinating. And this is why I love sitting across from you at dinner and getting to know you. I mean, you drive a giant fire truck. You also are a scientist. You also are deep in the world of spirituality. It makes you so interesting and so fascinating to spend time with. But I think the most fascinating thing is when you share stories about clients that you're helping. Now, I know that you work with really high achievers. It's not the average everyday person that comes to somebody like you to say, hey, marry these two worlds for me and help me clean up my stuff. Can you describe the type of people you work with, what they're trying to fix, and how your method kind of does that?
Yeah. So usually I'm their last resort. I've never met anyone who says, hey, I have a problem. I want to fix it. You are my first person. Usually not how it happens. They have done everything else and they are really desperate. And the high achievers, for them, it's for all of us. Don't get me wrong, right? It's hard for all of us to admit we have a problem and we need help. But for high achievers, they are usually programmed the way I can fix it myself. So until they come and seek help, they're really deep in trouble, right? And then it's, of course, we need to build trust, right? You can't open up, most of us can't open up about our inner deepest troubles, challenges, worries, concerns that we most certainly carry around for a long time. And out of a sudden, you're supposed to share what's going on inside, right? This needs this certain level of desperation. And this helps me a lot. And the combination of the science part, this is where we build trust, right? When we start to work on the brain health first, and people learn that it makes sense what we are talking about, then it's easier to open up. And it's also part of, does she go to the next newspaper or TV channel and talks about my addiction or whatever that is, or marital issues or sexual issues or health problems? This is part of the deal, quote unquote. It's not a deal, but people need to feel safe so that we can do the work. And the process usually is, we start with the scientific part. When your brain is as healthy as it can be, we have a good foundation, because the spiritual part also relies on the brain. So let us do the brain work first, and then as fast as possible, let's add the spiritual part and combine both parts of the brain, right?
This is fascinating because it makes sense, because a lot of people, they're either a medical doctor or scientist, or they're a spiritual practitioner. And so they don't stop to, let's say they're a spiritual practitioner. We know how important that is, but they don't even check the fundamental health of the brain first. They just go in with their methodologies, and there might be something meaningfully wrong from a scientific or medical standpoint that's not being addressed. So when you do it in that order, and when you have the talent to be able to address both sides, both hemispheres of the brain, that's fascinating, and it makes sense why you get these type of results.
So you're saying one of the things that you do is like go in and actually try to clean up their life and probably their food and all of those and how they're thinking and everything like that. Because what made you realize that the spiritual part of the brain is not going to be able to be accessed without making sure it's healthy?
This is a natural protective mechanism, right? When we are healthy, we can access. When we are not as healthy as we could be, the body, our human system, limits itself to the essential parts. And what's essential, right? That we can function. Yes, it's breath. It's usually thinking, even though brain fog is so common, unfortunately. But it's the movement part, the breathing part, the digestion part, right? Those control mechanisms, they need to remain supported. And spirituality is not essential for survival. It's essential for thriving, but not for our survival. And when we help the brain to regain health, homeostasis, balance, equilibrium, then we can access all the parts, right?
So can you give us an example, and obviously leave names out and all that, but of a type of a problem that a specific patient came to you with and how this methodology helped them when traditional science and traditional spirituality was not going to work for them?
Oh, I have a couple of clients that come to mind.
I love it. Share them.
The first one that came to mind, he has a trucking company. He has multiple trucks, high stress, and he was in a very desperate state of mind. He was in a lawsuit and he didn't see a way out. So he was contemplating leaving this world. And due to the stress, to the sleep deprivation, he didn't eat healthy, he couldn't sleep. His system was depleted. And we started with analyzing. So because this is where he felt safe, right? Then we created a plan for supplements to nourish his brain, improving his sleep. And then we looked for a way to rebuild trust that fairness would be spoken in the future, that it all would work out for him for the highest good. And I taught him meditating, and he said, I can do this. I never be able to meditate. And this is one thing a lot of people don't know how to meditate. And many teachers, and don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining here, but many teachers don't really understand what it is. They tell their people, shut up your thoughts, stop thinking. But this is not what it is, right? As long as we are alive here in this world, we have thoughts. The important thing is to slow them down so that we can become aware of the individual thought and the gap in between the thoughts, so that we can be open to receive the insights, the epiphanies, the solution. And for a trucker, when you imagine you are an eagle and watch a highway and all the trucks are running in high pace, you see the stream of trucks as an analogy for our thoughts, right? And if someone puts a sign there, slow down due to construction, and out of a sudden traffic pace is slower, you can see the individual cars, the individual thoughts, and you become aware of the gaps in between the cars, our thoughts. And this is when the downloads happen and when we rebuild that trust, that connection to ourselves. And that was mainly the process that I did with it.
This was actually the most understandable explanation of meditating. Like, when you slow the thoughts, that's when you can make room for some thoughts that aren't yours. But we just get so greedy with filling our brains with all of our own thoughts that we never get downloads. I love that. Like, you actually have to make room for the download. That's what a meditation is. That makes me want to meditate more.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that.
Yeah, such a great explanation.
I'm getting back to it this weekend.
Yep.
That's my commitment. That's what you just inspired me to get back to meditation starting this weekend. It's a Friday that we're recording this for reference for people. So,
Love
okay.
it.
Well, so how would people work with you? How did they find you? Who should be reaching out to you? Like, how does someone know, oh, this is what I need? And how do they find you?
So they find me through my website. That's the easiest way to reach out to me. And to figure out if I'm the best person for them, let's have a conversation, right? It needs to match. Somewhat the energy, the frequency, the chemistry, it needs to match. And if it's a problem that you couldn't solve yet, it's not the first thing usually, right? If you want to stop biting your nails, seek help with a hypnotist. If it's a bigger thing, right? I have a client, he's a CEO of a huge international company. Their son was sick. The son was sick, has been sick for 4 years. And he reached out. And now this boy, from not being able to sit up in the bed for years, now he can go outside and play with his friends again.
You're performing miracles or helping.
This is how I call it, right? Really, let's create our own miracle, whatever that means, right? Infertility journey, health issues, addiction. medical problems, and there is no guarantee, and there is no guarantee in life. But what I know is that there's a higher power, and when we allow that higher power to support us, then we can create miracles.
I think sometimes it's, I know it's so powerful when you work with someone, we're not meant to do this alone. It's very important to work with people, and for you to hold space for people to connect them back to God, to source, to whatever it is they believe, because that's where this is all going to come from. But what exactly is your website that we can direct people to?
It's my name. It's petrafrese.com.
Okay, and we'll put that in the show notes as well.
All right. So what do you hope this turns into over the next 2 to 3 years? What kind of impact do you want to make, and how would you define that it's successful in the next 2 to 3 years?
The next step would be that it's more normalized, that people are open to receive help, to seek out experts, and that people are absolutely willing to put in the work, right? It sounds beautiful if the miracle happened, but the way to the miracle, it's real tough work, consistent hard work, and it needs so much trust. And if you can trust yourself, you need to trust that other person, and vice versa. And if this becomes our new normalcy, that we can trust each other and that we accept and respect that we are different. This doesn't take away from our worth. It's not what's more valuable or more worthy. We are not all the same. When I work with crystals, we don't expect that one crystal does exactly the same as the other one, but they are all beautiful and powerful and helpful. And if we can come to the point as humanity that we are special, we are unique, and we go through challenges, but that's not a punishment. That's for us to evolve, to learn, to grow, and that it's okay to sometimes struggle, to seek out help, and then deserve our happiness and fulfillment.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Well, we are going to help to make this normalized, as you put it, and make it mainstream, and the collision of these two worlds working together. Obviously, that's going to solve a lot more problems than people staying in silos of it has to be science or it has to be spiritual. Of course, it makes sense that it should be both of them together. And I love that you're out there fighting the fight. I'm going to challenge you to get on as many shows like this as possible, because that's what's going to help to normalize this a little bit more and help to get the word out that somebody, or maybe a handful of individuals, do exist, that they can bring these two worlds together to treat people.
Thank you.
I love that. You guys, for anybody listening too, grab Petra, book her on your show to talk about this, to go deeper, to put her in front of your audiences. If you loved this conversation, you want to know more, because we know that this was just like a little baby bite size. Who are you and what can you do? And we didn't even get to touch on everything that you've done. And I also just want to say, to be in your presence, like, you are such a beautiful, quiet storm. Like, I see you floating about in the room, and it's nothing that I hear from you about the work that you do. It's what I hear from others and how you've made an impact. And when we ask the room, who's made an impact in the room, people raise their hands and mention your name. And so I know that you are out there, doing this in your own beautiful way. And we're just grateful for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're magical. That is our privilege to have you. Everybody reach out to her. Her website is in the show notes. So at the end of this episode, go to show notes, click on her website, and reach out to Petra, because I know that she wants to hear from you and definitely wants to help you. And we're going to have her on your show. She's amazing. Petra, thanks for being on. We sure appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. And if you loved this episode and know of someone else who is as successful as they are generous, please pass them on to me. It would mean the world to me if you help me get this cause and this message out to as many listeners as I can. So please, if you liked what you heard, it goes a long way if you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review and share this with your friends. I'll be forever grateful. And until the next episode, cheers to your success.